Oh, I know one.
All right. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this candidate forum for House District 49 and House District 50. I think many of you probably know that House District 49 and House District 50 are in Brunswick and take up the majority of Brunswick. There is one small part of Brunswick that falls into 51, but for the most part, if you live and work and play in Brunswick, these are your candidates. So we are going to dive right in. We're a couple minutes late getting going here. I do want to give a couple of ground rules for all the folks that are watching and listening, that at some points you will see me kind of raise my thumbs up or kind of put a finger up or something like that. That's actually not me saying, oh, I really believe in that point. It's more of a signal to the people, to our candidates that they're approaching their time limit and they need to get wrapped up. So I had some people that were confused about that from the Senate forum. I also do want to thank the Chamber's Cornerstone members for being supportive of this event, and that's Coast-Parkview Health, Priority Real Estate, REMAX Riverside, Barnard Financial, Bath Savings Institute, Riley Insurance, and Sitelines. So thank you to all those organizations. Because we're putting this on, we do need to have the disclaimer that the Chamber nor any of those businesses are endorsing any particular candidates by supporting this forum. With that, thank you to the candidates for being here. We do have an order of what we're going to go through. So for this first round, it's opening statements. So you have up to 3 minutes to introduce yourself. And we are going to start with the man on the golf course, Mr. Mike Lawler. Mike, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Lawler. I am a retired U.S. Air Force and Apple computer engineer. I owned and operated an independent information technology consultancy for 14 years. I have run for elected office before in Texas and here in Maine as well, and found it to be a rewarding experience. I want to see more transparency and accountability in the legislative process. Also, as Maine will forever have finite resources, I want to see these resources deployed in a sensible and responsible manner. My experience will enable me to successfully represent the folks in District 50. I served as an elected board member of a regional wastewater treatment facility serving 6 towns in Central Texas. Founded an all-volunteer EMS service providing contracted EMS service to 5 towns in Central Texas, as well as unincorporated portions of 3 Texas counties. I'm a veteran of 2 multinational information technology companies, Raycal Milgo and Apple Computer. I served as an appointed director of the Brunswick Sewer District from 2002 to 2005. My wife, Marianne, and I moved to Maine 20 years ago. District 50 is special to me because it has a terrific airfield, a terrific college, and terrific Mainers.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Mike. That is wonderful. We are going to go next to Poppy Arford. So Mike's a District 50 candidate, and Poppy and Fred are District 49. So Poppy, your opening statement begins whenever you unmute. Just ask you to unmute. Oh, Poppy, you're still muted.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you.
Hold on just a second. Okay. Hold on. Are we ready to roll?
Ready to roll. Floor is yours.
Great. I want to start by thanking the Southern Midcoast Maine Chamber and our moderator, Cory King, for hosting this candidate forum. To kick off my general election campaign, I ran and biked my way around the perimeter of District 49, basically the western half of Brunswick, visiting outdoor recreation spots and events. This experience was a powerful reminder to me of how I have grown to care deeply about our community, the people, businesses, schools, service organizations, farms, and fisheries that make Brunswick such a special place. Before Brunswick, I lived until college, just 20 miles upriver in Auburn. My education includes a Bachelor of Arts in Social Work and graduation from the Hanley Health Leadership Development Program. I've worked hard to continually enhance my skills as a leader, team member, and collaborator, all critically important for getting things done. My experience as an Outward Bound instructor, registered substance abuse counselor, founder and director of Share Center, and member of the Brunswick Town Council are all examples of this. I recently have put my training to use as a patient advocate and representative. I served on the Maine Health Data Organization Board of Directors and championed development of the Compare Maine Health Cost and Quality website. I currently serve on the Right Care Alliance governing body, a healthcare delivery and finance reform organization, where I started and co-lead a patient council. In the conversations I'm having with District 49 residents, I'm hearing what people care about, highlighting the effects of the COVID crisis. They are supporting our business community, preserving our excellent education system, ensuring stable employment for all, childcare, affordable housing, the opiate epidemic, and rising property taxes, which we all saw front and center this week when our payments were due. I'm hearing how much people want affordable health care. The COVID crisis has made this more critical for many, especially for those who have lost their employee-sponsored insurance. When my husband suffered from cancer, he had excellent insurance to pay the bills. This is the way it should be for everyone. Having to weigh the loss of your savings and other critical financial matters against whether or not you're going to have needed tests and treatment was a choice I was spared. It's a cruel choice, one that I am committed to ensuring no business owner, employee, or Maine resident ever has to make. I believe that a legislative solution is needed to achieve this for all Maine people. The Brunswick Town Council recently passed a resolution supporting equitable health care for all Maine residents, demonstrating that our community supports such action. If we are to prosper as members of the Brunswick community, these issues are all critically important. I care. And that's why I'm running to be your next District 49 state representative. I'm going to close now before I run out of time by acknowledging how life has changed dramatically for many of us and quite harshly for some due to the COVID crisis. I understand the critical need for everyone to work together, and while respecting our ideological differences, focus our actions on staying healthy, recovering, and building back better with a clean, energy-driven economy. Thank you.
You're muted, Cory.
Cory, you're still muted. We can't hear you, buddy.
I'm muted. I thought he said that you were muted. Sorry. There we go. Fred, the floor is yours. That's all I needed to say. Go for it.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? Am I unmuted?
Yes, you're great.
All right, great. Well, good morning, Cory. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this candidate forum. I think it's great for our town to see both candidates, and thank Poppy for running. It's been a really clean election so far. We're both clean election candidates, and I think it's been very positive. So I wanted to thank Poppy and her team for that. My name is Fred Horch. I am the other candidate in District 49. I'm running as a Green Independent, and I'll give you a little bit about my background and then why I decided to run for office. So I'm an attorney, I'm a small business owner, and I'm a community leader. So as an attorney, of course, I went to college, I went to law school, I passed the bar, and I did practice law in North Carolina. But when I moved to Maine, I had a chance to do something different, and I started some businesses here. So a lot of folks in town may remember my store, which was on Main Street. It was called F.W. Horch Sustainable Goods and Supplies. And sustainability is really my life's mission right now. I really want to help people take care of each other and our planet. And unfortunately for F.W. Horch, I have a family as well, and I decided that it was family comes first, and we had 3 small children growing up in Maine, but I wanted to help them see the world. So my wife's a professor at Bowdoin College. We had a sabbatical year, so I came together with my partners with the store, and we decided, you know what, there's just no way to keep the store going and allow me to take my family to Japan for a year for sabbatical. So I sold that store, went to Japan, had a great experience there, and then came back and I've started a new business. So currently I own a company called Spark Applied Efficiency. So I'm running into a lot of people as I'm running again, they're saying, whatever happened to you? And I'm still here, I'm still in Brunswick. I just have another business which is not as customer facing. Spark Applied Efficiency helps other businesses. We have clients like Wicked Joe Coffee and Frontier, Morning Glory, Royal River Natural Foods. We help other businesses become more energy efficient. So that's my current business. So I am a business owner and again, an attorney. In terms of the community involvement, again, I have 3 children. I went through the schools here. My middle child is at Bowdoin College right now. My wife works at Bowdoin College. But my other community service has been a lot of different organizations. I served 6 years on the board for Midcoast Hunger Prevention Program. I ran into Ethan Minton yesterday when I was dropping off my ballot, so it was good to connect with him. He was also on the board. We did a lot of good stuff there, including putting solar panels on the Midcoast Hunger building, which was one of the things that I was really closely involved with and really proud of that. We did a lot changed in that organization while I was there, but it was a great experience. I was happy to serve. And I've been asked to step up to be president-elect of the Rotary Club. So Again, as a business person involved in Rotary, business is very important to me. I have a lot of friends who are business owners. Again, my current company serves other businesses. And the reason I decided to run for office, first of all, it's an open seat, so there's a good chance we have to elect a new representative. And I just want to make Maine work better for everyone. So I'm getting the signal from Cory. I'll wrap it up there. If you have any more questions about me, my website is www.horch2020.org. You can learn all about me there. Thank you. Cory, you're still muted, buddy.
I breathe so heavy that I try to mute myself between stuff, but I just won't do that. Thank you again, Fred, for letting me know. Gosh, I'm not a pro at this. Okay, anyway, moving on. I do want to let everyone know that Ralph Tucker, I know wants to be here. I also know that Ralph has been moving his office and changing over his IT, and he's changed emails and some different things. So I'm hoping that he'll join us. If Ralph does join us, we'll have him give an opening statement whenever he does join us. But until that, I do want to get going in with the questions. And so for this first question, the order is going to be Fred and then Poppy and then Mike. And so we did have some questions submitted, and I will let you know when it's a submitted question because there's commentary in the question that's not mine. So this question's about property tax. Of the three primary tax buckets, income tax, sales tax, and property tax is the most regressive and strikes the hardest on those that can least afford it. Of the three property tax segments, municipal budgets, education budgets, and county budgets are the least discussed, but are very often are very important as they account for district attorney offices, emergency dispatch, sheriff's departments, county jails, and other vital services. Please comment as to how you, by serving in the state legislature, might assist in alleviating this tax burden on the local communities and counties, as they are property tax dependent. Some examples might be a development of alternative funding sources, programs to encourage common service consolidations between local governments, lifting state requirements, or more direct assistance. So Fred, you're going to be the first to answer that. You've got 90 seconds, and then we'll let everyone get 90 seconds, and then we'll have 30 seconds of extra time after the question. So Fred, property tax relief, what are your thoughts?
All right, well, first, it's a great question because I'm running for the Maine House, and the Maine House does decide tax policy for Maine, so it's exactly what we need to be thinking about. And the first thing I want to say is I think everything's on the table. We have an enormous budget deficit. We don't know what's going to happen with state revenue. We don't know what's going to be possible. So I think in terms of tax policy, everything is on the table. We have to look at it from top to bottom, and it's overdue. We really should have been reforming our tax system all along. It's just been very difficult. So hopefully we can take this real challenge with the pandemic and turn it into something very positive for Maine by overhauling our tax system. And when I think about that, I think of four goals here. The first is we want to ensure that we have adequate revenue to fund essential government programs. We don't want to waste money, but we want to make sure that we deliver the services that people need. We do need government. The second thing is we want to ensure that our tax system is fair. And there's a lot of criticism right now. I think the fact that our income tax in particular is very high for low income people. And that's something where we should look at fairness. Do people have the ability to pay the taxes? And people who are wealthier or who have, there have been some windfall profits in this pandemic. So we need to look at, is our tax system fair? That's the second goal. Thirdly, we need to lower the tax burden on the lower income people. Taxes are pretty much, we're like third highest. I was reading some stuff last night about the tax burden in terms of total income and total taxes paid. And Maine has a very high tax burden. So for people who are low income, that's hard to manage. So we do need to lower the tax burden somehow. And then fourth, we need to improve the consistency, the predictability and timing of our system. Particularly, I'm thinking of revenue sharing for education. And Poppy brought up that our tax bills were due. I'm looking at my tax bill now. The question mentioned county taxes. And I think one of the reasons they're overlooked is the percentage here. I'm looking at school. There's three buckets for our property taxes where the money goes to. It's school, county, and municipal. County only is 3.5%. That's why county gets overlooked. There's not a lot of time in 90 seconds, so I'll wrap it up. Thanks, Cory.
Thanks, Fred. Poppy and Mike. Fred went about 2 minutes, so I'm going to give you 2 minutes as well. So Poppy, your 2 minutes for this question only starts right now. Oh, Poppy, unmute yourself, please.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
Technology.
I know, right?
I would love to be doing this together in a room where we can see each other and respond to people directly, but we're doing it over a screen and we're doing our best. But I want to thank Fred for making some excellent points. There's nothing that he has left out in terms of an overview of what's happening at the state level. What I'd like to focus on, because Fred did such a great job of covering that, is that I'm thinking about why are we even talking about property taxes? And the reason we have this question before us, and the reason we're talking about property taxes, because so many people in our community are overly burdened by them. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is, I can remember back in 1988 when I was on the town council, and people were coming from away and purchasing property along the coast, and the coastal property value was skyrocketing, that people were literally being taxed off their land. Their property tax was rising to the point where they could no longer afford to live on land they'd lived and in many cases worked on, for fisheries, intergenerationally. And so today we see the same thing happening throughout the entire town of Brunswick. Brunswick is an extremely desirable community to live in. It's going to continue our property values. My next door neighbor is a realtor, and she told me that business is booming. Many people during this pandemic want to live here. So our property value is going up, which means that if you live in a home that you've lived in for many, many years, and the value of your property goes up and your taxes go up and your income has not gone up, you are in trouble. So what can we actually do about that at the local level? So I want to just talk for a minute about that. Because at the local level, there's a number of different assistance programs. There's the direct assistance program that we have through the homestead exemption, which you apply for. There's also a program that many people don't know about called the State of Maine Property Tax Fairness Credit, which you actually apply for when you have to file income tax to do this, but it's for people 70 or older. And in our community, we have a partner to that. And I know I need to hang out. I'll just say this really quickly. We have a partner to that, which is if you're 70 or older, you've lived in Brunswick for 10 or more years, and you have filed for your property tax and applied for the state program, you can also apply for Brunswick. Brunswick has a partner to that. And both programs offer up to $1,200 in property tax relief. So
Awesome.
It's important for people to check into their local relief programs.
Awesome. And Bobby, everyone's going to get 30 seconds after the Mike answers to add anything else. So keep that in mind, and we'll go to Mike talking about taxes and property taxes. Mike, you've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, property taxes. The way I see this, and I talked to a lot of people about this, trying to get people's opinions. I've talked to people who are out of work and about to lose their homes. And that's more than one person I'm talking about. It's very serious what's going on here. I think that the first thing the legislature needs to do is they need to right-size government. And I think that'll probably flow down to the towns as well. But government has to be right-sized to match revenues, and the revenues aren't going to be what they were.
Yeah,
I mean, we're looking at a situation where there's going to be if every department and commission and piece of state government were to be defunded to the same degree, it would be 30% across the board.
Wow.
And that's a big deal.
Oh, for sure. Yep. Awesome. Mike, thank you. Very efficient. So at this point, we have the anything further section, which is 30 more seconds on this question for anything that you want to add. We're going to go right back in the same order. So Fred, is there anything else that you wanted to hit on with an extra 30 seconds?
I'm really glad Poppy brought up the property tax fairness credit and the homestead exemption. And just to reiterate those points, you do need to ask for that. And there's a phone number on your tax bill. So if you look down, it'll tell you. And if you don't see a homestead exemption, call the town, because you get a $25,000 homestead exemption for your main house you live in. So that's an important thing for people to know. And then on Mike's point about right-sizing government, I totally agree. But the most important thing we need to be working on right now is helping people keep their jobs, or if they've lost their job, get a new job and grow their income. So I think that's even more important for the legislature, is to figure out ways to grow our economy, to help people get back to work. And there's supply side and demand side arguments. You know, he was talking about the supply side, let's shrink government. There's also demand side. And I just want to point out that I do think that some revenue sharing from the state to the local is really an important thing to work on. So that's one of my top 3 priorities, to make sure we have that revenue sharing so that we can reduce the burden on property taxes by tapping into some of the revenue sources the state has.
Thank you, Fred. Everyone's going to get 45 seconds for anything further, starting with Poppy, 45. Oh, muted again, Pop. Sorry.
We're competing for who's doing the best job of forgetting to unmute
Right.
themselves, Cory. So yes, I want to say at the state level, as Fred was alluding to, I was talking about what can happen at the local level. At the state level, where we will be working, whichever one of us ends up as the next District 49 state representative, we will be doing our very best to represent our community in the state of Maine. And there's two items that we will be looking at in the next legislature. And they are the revenue sharing, and the goal for that is 5%. I think we're around 4%. Under the LePage administration, it was very much compromised. Revenue sharing is simply, for those who don't know, it's taking all the money that the state gathers through income tax and sales tax, and they put it into a bucket, and a certain percentage of it goes back to the community. And I'd like to see that be 5%. I know that's going to be really challenging during COVID, though.
Awesome. Poppy, thank you. Mike.
I have
Anything
nothing
else?
to add. I have nothing to add.
There we go. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. So the next question actually is going to go to Mike first. And this question is about career and technical education. So Region 10 Technical High School is our region's career and technical high school. Students attend part-time, typically in their junior and senior year of high school. What are your thoughts on Region 10's vision to become a four-year technical high school located at the Landing to support our business and industry's critical need for skilled workers? So, Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a terrific idea, and I've talked to, I know, probably over 50 businessmen in Brunswick, not all of them in District 50, about this and about their workforce and their workforce development. And there's broad support for this, very broad support for this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mike. Poppy, you're going to get to answer this question first. So just one more time again, what are your thoughts on Region 10's vision to become a four-year technical high school located at the Brunswick Landing, support our businesses and industry's critical need for skilled workers? Poppy, you've got 9 seconds.
Okay, great, super. So my husband just retired from working 15 years at the Region 8 Technical School in Rockland. So I've heard a lot over the years about what an excellent program is provided through a technical center of learning for students. And so I'm absolutely in support of it. It will require a great deal of organization and coordinating with the Academic Center for Learning, which is the Brunswick High School. And one of the things that the business community will be, I'm sure, very excited about, it's an excellent opportunity for the school to actually partner with the business community. My husband did a number of projects. He worked with the local municipal building department to create, his students designed a gazebo, and they actually participated in the construction of that gazebo. If this school was to be sited at the old base, at the base site, then we would have the advantage of all the businesses, including the new spaceport, which is going to be operational there, we hope. And it's just extremely exciting what the potential would be. But I will say it will be something that will require a huge commitment from our community, and it will require a lot of coordination.
Awesome. Poppy, thank you. Fred, your 90 seconds on the same question about the technical high school.
Great. Yeah, well, I have a selfish reason for that because my company, Spark Applied Efficiency, is always hiring technicians. So I would love it. And our Rotary Club, we actually have one of our meetings every year. In a normal year, we actually get to have lunch out there at Region 10. So it's a great program. It is a challenge right now, as people who have kids in the school know. It's a half-time program. So kids are half day at a regular high school, and then they go over there. It's not a full program here. So that's a real shame. And there's a lot of kids, I think, who would be well served by that program. But more importantly, and I think that the thrust of the question is, and Mike alluded to this, it's going to support our business community. And I tell you, we really do need to work on that. We've got a great technical college program, a 2-year college program, and a lot of kids go through that. And we've hired people who are 20 years old for my company who are starting great careers. They're going to become electricians. They're going to become HVAC technicians. And it is a fantastic career path for people. You don't need to always go to a 4-year college. There's a lot you can do working with your hands. It's a very valuable skill you can learn. And you can go back to college if you decide after working for 10, 20 years as an electrician, you want to get a college degree. So I strongly support it. Poppy's absolutely right, though. It's going to take a lot of work. And especially now in this next session, I've been talking to a lot of other candidates and people who are serving the legislature right now. There's so much we want to do. The question is, how do we do it? So some partnering, I think, is important. And I know there's a lot of interest in the business community. So again, as a business person, I do think there's really a lot of room for the business community to help this happen. And I would be very well positioned to make that happen. So another reason to vote for me is that I have that connection to the business community. I strongly support this. I can see how it would benefit. It does benefit me personally, so I feel a little guilty, but I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Fred. 30 seconds on anything more about career and technical education or the high school. Going to go in the same order. Mike, is there anything else you want to add in 30 seconds?
No, well, the only thing I would add is that just as in the past with the existing two-year program, I know that there are businesses eager to pitch in both financially and with person power, if you will, to help make this thing a reality.
Yeah, no, there's starting to become a tremendous energy around that. I absolutely agree with that. Thank you, Mike. Poppy, 30 seconds to add anything else. Poppy, I'm sorry to tell you, you're muted again.
Oh my God, I get the award. I'm definitely getting the award. So two other points that make a Center for Technology Learning and Education really desirable is, number one, as Fred pointed out, it really sets young people on a career path other than college, where they will, in many instances, be able to make a living wage and further themselves from just after they graduate from that institution, basically a high school. And one of the great things about that is that they will not be incurring student debt from having to go on to an institution of higher learning. So that's an excellent push for that. And again, I just really want to stress the partnership opportunities that would offer.
Awesome. Thank you, Poppy. Fred, 30 more seconds.
Yeah, I think I might take this chance to plug another program at the high school, which is the High School Garden, which I think is a similar idea of getting kids to work with their hands. It's something I volunteer with. And we are trying to raise money for that program. We'd like to build a year-round greenhouse, which would expand that program. So I think these opportunities for giving kids the chance to do other things than your traditional college prep classes, the chance to grow food with the garden. And if we can get a greenhouse going, that would be fantastic. And as Poppy said, the chance to start a career right out of high school. I mean, a four-year technical high school diploma, and then a couple years, maybe even you could get a job right after high school, but then just 2 years in a technical college, that would set you up for a fantastic and rewarding life. You can definitely have your own electrical practice. And the final point is we really do need a lot of electricians, especially since we're going to be electrifying our economy, and we will need that skilled work base here in Maine. So it's a very important thing to do, and I hope we can make it happen.
Thank you, Fred. All right, our next question is one of our submitted questions. And again, I tell you that because there is some commentary that is not my own, but no, I don't necessarily agree or disagree when that happens. I just like to put it out there so everybody knows. So this is gonna go first to Poppy, then to Fred, and then to Mike. So it's about opioid addiction and gateway drugs. So we've all watched the devastation to our community from the opioid epidemic. So we can all agree that we need to prevent addiction and the terrible toll it takes on our kids and our economy. The evidence is very clear that tobacco products, whether smoked or vaped, are often the first addictive product our youth are exposed to, and that nicotine exposure impacts the developing brain and creates susceptibility to other addictions as life unfolds. So we know that one of the best things we can do is make tobacco products less appealing to our kids, and that starts with getting grape and cherry and bubblegum flavors, all flavors, off the store shelves. Flavors aren't for adults, flavors hook kids. My question is, what's your plan for preventing addiction, and would you support ending the sale of all flavored tobacco products in Maine? So Poppy, 90 seconds for you begins now.
Great, I'm unmuted. I absolutely support legislation. It's my understanding that legislation was passed that will drastically limit, if not completely not allow the purchasing of any flavored tobacco products for people under a certain age in the state of Maine. I'm not clear what's happened to that because of the COVID crisis and because the legislature has not yet gone back into session. So that's to be continued. It will absolutely have my support. I have supported limiting access to all tobacco products, whether or not they're flavored, forever. It's a early addiction that young people engage in that then sets them on the path. It's very common for young people to mix marijuana products with tobacco and smoke, and then leads to a substance abuse dependency on marijuana. But the thing you mentioned about was the opiate addiction. First of all, I just want to acknowledge that this is a heartbreaking problem that we are experiencing in our state today. It is not getting better. The most recent data and statistics show us that especially during COVID time, this has gotten worse. We need to, it's really, to me, because of my experience, and I was a registered substance abuse counselor, that what we need to throw a significant increase of resources onto this problem. We need an infrastructure for treatment. We need a much more robust for prevention. The way to prevent this disease is to educate young people, to expose them to the actual impact of what this addiction will do to them. Opiates are one of the most highly addictive substances on earth. Many people, after their first use of that product, will become fully addicted, and it is heartbreaking to lose a loved one to this disease. So I will be working very hard and understanding how serious a problem this is.
Thank you. Fred, a minute 45 for you to discuss this opioid addiction and just to read the question one more time.
Yeah,
What's
Cory,
your plan for preventing
I have it
addiction?
here, Cory. You don't need to read it. I've got it. I prepared it.
Beautiful.
So it's a real problem. I don't think there has been a family in Maine that hasn't been touched by an addiction of some sort. And I also want to point out that addiction is not just to chemical substances. There's all kinds of addictions. We have a real mental health challenge. So I think about the plan for ending addiction as really mental health and the delivery of mental health services. I think it's been exacerbated, some of these mental health issues now with the pandemic. So if anybody's out there, it needs help, my heart goes out to you. I have created a group called Support Brunswick. It's a Facebook group. We really are trying to get information out to folks. So that's one place. If you're online, you can hopefully post a plea for help or whatever, and get some good information back. And Poppy obviously knows a lot more than I do about this. She's trained in this field. It hasn't been something that I've worked on myself. So that's one of the things that I'm glad I'm being part of a legislature, and there's a process there. It is a really important thing that I would be looking to educate myself about, to learn about the best practices. But I do have a sense of what does work, looking at what has worked in other countries and what the advocates who have reached out to me and told me they want. And Poppy's absolutely right. The number one request I've heard is more resources for mental health, counseling, that sort of thing. I do want to point out that we actually had a chance to travel in South America, and Chile and Peru are two countries that are relatively close to each other and have vastly different smoking rates. And I was just curious to see why that was. When we were in Peru, it's very interesting. The packs of cigarettes there have graphic images of people who have had cancer and surgeries for cancer. And so I think that speaks to Poppy's point that education probably has a role to play. Peru has a much slower smoking rate than Chile and have a much different public health response to smoking. So anyway, again, I'll stop talking there because I'm not an expert, but I really am interested in this issue and will do everything I can to help prevent addiction. Thanks.
Thank you, Fred. Mike's same question about opioid addiction and kids vaping.
Well, clearly, opioid addiction and the gateway drug business is, that's a big deal in Maine. I don't see where passing a law against banning a product solves the problem. I don't think it solves the problem. Particularly with now marijuana clinics opening up, selling marijuana over the counter. Okay. I don't believe for a second that young people are not going to get their hands on marijuana. I just don't believe it. And so for all of those reasons, it is I think it's a public health crisis, and it needs to be approached in that way. Passing a law to tell the store they can't sell a flavored cigarette is not the solution.
All right. Mike, thank you. Poppy, 30 more seconds if you want to add anything on this topic.
I wish we could talk about this forever, because in fact, the most common addiction we experience in our society today is actually alcoholism. And as Fred said, I don't know anybody who hasn't been touched by the disease of alcoholism. And that's the point I want to make in my 30 seconds. There is a myth out there that somehow if you have a problem with alcohol or marijuana or, God forbid, opiates, that you're somehow a weak or bad person. That is absolutely not the case. These are illnesses, just like cancer and heart disease and congestive heart failure. It is a disease and it needs to be treated. And what we can do in the legislature is, as I already have said, we need to adequately fund programs to prevent and treat addiction. And I am going to be 100% behind that.
Thank you, Poppy. Fred, 30 more seconds.
Well, I think Mike and Poppy both make good points. And Mike's point, is this the solution? Obviously not by itself. And I think Poppy was saying that she thinks it is part of the solution. And so that's, again, what I would really like to be part of a legislature, to hear all sides. And the question I have is it worth it to try to enforce this ban? Will this do more good than harm? And obviously I had a store. I know how it's important to let people sell, a product that can help people enjoy their lives. If people want to smoke in their own homes, I think they should have that right. But and if obviously people want to drink, that, as Poppy said, there's a huge alcoholism problem, but we don't ban all the breweries in town. So we have to manage these situations. And the question is just, is this a good public policy intervention or not? And I don't know the answer to it, but I would be leaning towards allowing the ban. I would guess I would support the ban if I was convinced that that was a useful thing to do.
Thank you, Fred. Mike, 30 more seconds. Anything else you want to say on the topic of addiction?
Nope.
Perfect. All right. Moving on to our next question. And this is about working together and compromise. The state of Maine and the next legislature is going to face a lot of tough challenges and a lot of tough decisions. So sorry, we're going to start with Mike on this one, and then we're going to go, I believe it's Fred and then Poppy. So Mike, Fred, Poppy. There we go. Sorry. The state legislature is facing a lot of challenges in this upcoming session. Can you give examples from your past when you've needed to compromise and work towards a common goal with those who didn't share your views initially? So Mike, can you give some examples of ways that you've worked with others to find compromise, as that's going to be such a needed thing?
Well, one of my responsibilities while I was at Apple was to be the leader inside the company in the development of international standards and our engagement with international standards agencies. And if you can picture people from Apple and IBM and Intel and Hewlett-Packard and Compaq Computer and all these naturally hungry competing enterprises sitting down around a table and trying to come to some kind of an agreement about how the plug should be put together and how many pins it should have and what sort of signals you're going to send down those wires. It's empathy, it's understanding, it's technical skills, and a willingness to compromise. Goal setting is important as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Fred, same question to you. Can you give some examples from your past when you needed to compromise and work towards a solution, and how'd you get that done?
Yeah, well, certainly business is a constant compromise when you have partners, for one thing, and then also customers. And I just remember when I first opened my store, we call it the green store initially, actually. And there were so many people who came in just to yank my chain, just to tell me that everything I was doing with the store is crazy, that we couldn't save the planet, that everything in the store is a bunch of hooey. And it was just great to have a conversation and say, well, here's why I'm selling it. Here's the actual environmental benefit. And it actually helped me focus my store. I actually closed the green store and reopened it as FW Horch, focusing on the things that I really could justify. And that dialogue with my customers and the community was great. And then the same people that had come in saying they just were kind of there to annoy me came in to buy composting toilets and outfit their camps. And we had great relationships. So I had a wide range of customers, and that relationship, I think that's important. And that's one of the reasons I'm running as a green independent and not as a party politician, because I think it harms the relationships to have that partisan factor injected. So I really think it's important to try to reach out to everybody to work together. And the other thing I would point to is on the board of Midcoast Hunger, we actually had a huge shift in our focus in terms of we revisioned our mission and what the organization was all about. And I was on the losing end of that discussion on the board, but it still was very valuable. And, we refocused, tightened our mission, focused on certain things, didn't provide other services. It was a very difficult decision to make because there's so many people that come in with so many needs to Midcoast Hunger, but we had to focus. And so that sort of compromise just comes naturally as a business person and in serving on boards.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred. Poppy, same question for you.
So what comes to mind is my term on the Maine Health Data Organization Board. I was the only person representing the public interest. I was the consumer representative. All the other people were representing different facets of the healthcare industry. And one of my primary issues, my policy priorities was cost transparency for people, because it's so difficult for people to understand what they will be charged or what they'll have to pay for their healthcare services before they actually have to pay them. And so I worked and worked and worked at this. And as it turned out, my ally, and honestly, it was a skill set that I was able to hone during this 6 years. I served on this board for 6 years. And my ally became a gentleman representing the healthcare insurance industry, because we both actually had this interest we discovered in cost transparency. And we were able, along with the rest of the board, to really move this agenda forward of healthcare cost transparency. And now there is actually on the Maine Healthcare Data Organization website, there is the website, it's Maine Cost and Quality, and anybody can Google this. And there's a number of different procedures provided, and you can find out it's a average cost, but still it's information that can get you started down the road of understanding what you'll be paying for your services. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I don't see myself, I just need to comment on, I do not see myself as a politician at all. I'm a public servant. I have no interest in politics for the sake of politics. And so I will very much reach across the aisle and work with everybody in the legislature.
Perfect. Thank you, Poppy. Mike, 30 more seconds on compromise. Any other thoughts on that you want to add?
No, I think it's you can't compromise unless you listen. And you can't compromise if you're a megaphone for a political party.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Mike. Fred, anything else you want to add?
Boy, Mike, I'm going to quote you. You can't compromise if you're a megaphone for a political party. That is absolutely true. I really believe it. And I do think you have to listen. And I think that's one of the things that, especially the store I had on Main Street, where I had people coming in every day, that really gave me a chance to hear a lot of people. And then as I practiced listening, to listen and really understand what their concerns were, because you really can't have a customer-facing store like that and stay in business much longer than a year unless you really listen to what your customers need. So I think I do have that experience. It was really valuable to me. And I do really enjoy these kinds of forums we're doing. And I look forward to serving in the legislature and listening to my colleagues there and finding solutions to some challenges.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred. Poppy, 30 more seconds on anything.
Thank you so much for allowing us this give and take. I think it's very useful for the public to see how we think on these issues, especially in relationship to one another. And what I need to say about this, what we're talking about now, is this. You have to come to the table and set your preconceived notions aside at the door. The minute that you come into any conversation already deciding that a person will be a certain way or think a certain way or have a particular agenda, you're no longer truly open to what they're actually bringing with them. So what I strive to do is to leave my bias, leave my preconceived notions at the door, and be fully open to what the person is bringing to the conversation or to the issue or to the agenda.
Awesome. Gang, as we said when I sent you the format originally, I want to get one more question in here before closing statements, but we're going to shorten the response window just to make sure that we do have time to get to our closing statements. And so this is a question where it's just give me 60 seconds on it. If we have time for anything further, we will. What I'm looking for is there's so many topics. that we hear about every day through, and I'm sure through campaigning, you've heard a bunch of different topics that we haven't had a chance to discuss. Unfortunately, in these forums, we only have so much time to cover so many different topics. So in 60 seconds, and we're going to go Fred and then Poppy and then Mike, could you give me 2 or 3 topics that you're really passionate about and that people can contact you afterwards? We're going to get your contact information after your closing statements, but what are 2 or 3 other topics that we haven't discussed that you're really passionate about that you think are going to be priorities for the next legislature? So 60 seconds for Fred, Poppy, and Mike to let us know what those topics are.
Well, I think energy policy, and that's, I hope to serve on the Energy, Utilities, and Technology Committee. That is going to be an important topic. We have this issue of carbon pollution, and we have this issue of economic development. And the corridor issue is not on the ballot. It was a ballot referendum question, but the Supreme Court has weighed in and said, we will not, as citizens, will not have a chance to discuss that issue. But the corridor project is proceeding. It's going to be, is a hot button issue for a lot of people. And more broadly, the transition from the way we live now, and pretty much everybody on this call is waking up and burning fossil fuel from the, all the time. And that is going to change. And it's going to change. It has to change. And the question is how quickly and how fairly, and then whether Maine can benefit. And Maine can benefit. So that's an important policy issue. It has long-term complications or implications. We need to be planning now despite the pandemic. And then of course, the pandemic is the other issue. How do we respond to that? How do we grow our economy and keep people safe? So those are 2 issues, energy and public health.
Wonderful, thank you. We're gonna go to Poppy next.
So one of the things that I am very passionate about, obviously, is affordable healthcare for everybody. I've served for 12 years now within the industry. I understand how it functions. I understand how billing works. I understand how charging works. And I understand how to help people if they're struggling to pay their healthcare bills. So if anybody's out there and they're struggling, in my closing remarks, I will provide contact information. Please contact me. I will connect you with resources or do what I personally can to help you. And then the other thing that I'm really important to me is that everybody gets to vote in this election. I am concerned that some people have, because of what we're hearing on the airways and everywhere right now, they're concerned that their vote will not count. It either won't arrive, it will be thrown away or whatever. If anybody has concerns about that, please contact me. I'll help you put together a plan to assure that your vote will be delivered and that it will count. That's critically important. We have an amazing infrastructure here in Brunswick to make sure that happens. You can deliver your ballot in person at the town office. There's a secure drop-off box. And of course you can mail it in, or you can go vote on polling day, November 3rd. So please contact me if you need any help with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Poppy. I do want to, before we get to Mike, and Mike, I'm going to give you the same question. Ralph has joined us. I need to apologize to everyone. In our emails and our correspondence back and forth, anyone that knows me knows that I mess up AM and PM sometimes. And I think one of the previous emails had PM. And so Ralph and I had a miscommunication. So Ralph, I apologize to you. I'm so sorry. What I'd love to do with you, Ralph, is actually go over some of the questions that we've gone over in the forum. And so I can add it maybe at the end or in a different video. So Ralph, thank you for joining us. The question is right now, what are 2 or 3 issues that we haven't discussed, which you don't know about, but what are 2 or 3 big issues facing the next legislature? So we're going to give Mike 60 seconds to answer Ralph, and then we'll go to you, and we'll just continue on from there. So Mike, floor is yours. What are 2 or 3 issues that you think are going to be big priorities?
Well, really, there's just one that's pretty big. Again, talking to the businesses around town, the owners and the employees. The legislature is just, they're not inviting business into the process of creating these regulations, and they need to. They're doing dumb things, frankly. They're doing dumb things. And many of these people are active in the chamber. So Cory, I'm sure you've heard this before. This is nothing new. And that would be one of my focuses in Augusta.
Beautiful. Mike, thank you. And Ralph, we'll get to a closing statement here right after this, but just what are 2 or 3 topics that you think are going to face the next legislature that are really important to you?
First, of course, is going to be the budget, because revenues are going to be down. And so I think we're going to have to put everything on the table, including the LePage tax cuts of 2011. Otherwise, we're going to be laying off police. We're going to be laying off teachers. We're going to be laying off our public works people in the towns. We also should be conducting oversight on the performance of the Labor Department in processing the unemployment benefits. There were a lot of delays there.
Yeah.
Overall, I think that the Mills administration has done a pretty good job, particularly Dr. Shaw, who's had experience in prior epidemics, and believe me, it shows now. But beyond those immediate threats, I want to do everything we can to bolster public education and public health, even though most of these things are going to be influenced by national effects, national decisions. There are a lot of things we can do in Maine to preserve state government.
Wonderful.
More than that, my wheelhouse is in the Environment Committee. I've got 3 bills in there to try to bolster our Superfund law here in the state of Maine to clean up PFAS pollution and other pollutions, particularly at the Brunswick Landing, which is one of our biggest hotspots in the entire state for pollution by PFAS. There's a bunch of other laws too, limiting hydrofluorocarbons, which didn't quite make it because we adjourned. We also need to preserve and protect the vaccination law, which took maybe, I was involved in that for over 6 years, to finally require that school kids get their vaccinations before they start school. And I think that's going to be under attack, as vaccination is going to be a very controversial thing, I believe, in the next year. So those are some of the things we're thinking about.
Great. Ralph, I put you in an impossible situation having you try to sum up a bunch of things as you just hop on the call. So so thank you for that statement. And we're going to kind of take, we're going to go into the closing statements now. And we're going to start with Poppy, and then we're going to go to Fred and then Mike. And then I think Ralph and I might stay on the line to go over some of the other questions afterwards. But Poppy, why don't you start here with 90 seconds to 2 minutes? I want to try to get everyone out at 9:30 if we can. But Poppy, why don't you just add anything that you might have forgotten or you want to reemphasize?
So how much time will we be having, Cory?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay, great, super. Okay. There's 2 issues that we have not addressed, which I just want to say are near and dear to my heart, and that's the issue of racial discrimination and reproductive rights. And we will definitely be addressing both those issues full bore in the legislature. And then this issue of rebuilding better. To the business community, one of the things I'm very mindful of is the businesses who either are no longer in existence or continue to struggle. We really need to develop new processes, new programs, retraining, and whatever it takes to get those businesses either back to where they can function successfully or to help them do whatever comes next, whatever the retraining, really help them get back on their feet. And my final remarks are this. I will continue to lead. I will continue to be a leader who focuses on finding common ground. That is who I am. It's my MO. And it's critically important to me that Brunswick stays strong as a community facing the challenge of COVID together. I want to thank the voters of District 49 who chose me in the primary to be their Democratic candidate. I'm extremely grateful for that. And I'm going to ask for the voters of District 49 to trust me and to give me their vote again between now, those who have not yet voted, and the 3rd of November. In return, you can count on me to use my leadership experience, collaboration, and teamwork skills to represent our diverse community of Democrats, Republicans, Green Independents, and unenrolled voters. We are all in this together. Every voice counts. Please trust that I'm listening, respecting your ideas, and valuing what you care about, so that together as a community of diverse people, we will thrive. In closing, I appreciate your interest in my candidacy. Thank you again, Cory, and thank you again to the Chamber. And I welcome the opportunity to talk with everybody in District 49. I want to hear what you care about, and I want to answer any questions that remain after the forum. Please give me a call. This is my phone number, 207-522-1997. Again, that's 207-522-1997, and visit my website at poppy4staterep.com. And again, that's Poppy, Poppy, 4 staterep.com.
Poppy, thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. Fred, 2 minutes
All
for
right.
you.
Thank you, Cory. Thanks to the Chamber and everybody who joined us on this call, the other candidates. Nice to see you, Ralph. Better late than never. So again, I'm Fred Horch. I'm running in District 49. Poppy and I will be on the ballot, so you have a choice. And I do appreciate everyone who's reached out to me and supported me so far. I have a great campaign team, and thank you all for your support. You're doing a great job. I'm running as a Green Independent, and I think many people may not understand why, and I'd like to address that. So I do believe that the way you get things done in the legislature is by forming relationships with other legislators. And I do think it helps to start from a place where you're not on the opposite side. And so as a Green Independent, I'm an unusual candidate, and I'll be an unusual legislator, but I think it will give me a chance to be more effective. And the green part is 4 values, and that's social justice, grassroots democracy, mutual peace, and a healthy environment. And that sums up who I am. It's how I live my life. It's how I run my businesses. I'm green. And the independent part means that I consider what the parties want to do. I look at their platforms, but I'm not wedded to a particular platform. So I just want everyone to understand why I'm running as a Green Independent. I believe that I could be more effective for you. Like Poppy, I want to let people know how to contact me. The best way is really to go to my website, which is www.horch2020.org. So that's HORCH2020.org. I have a voter guide, which explains all of my positions on all the issues. So if you're wondering what I believe about abortion, I'm pro-choice, things like that. It's all on my website. You can find out what I believe about anything. And I also am having community conversations every Wednesday by Zoom. So if you'd like to check in with me and chat with me. So we do intend to win this election. I'm running a very clean elections campaign. I've got a team of people who are helping me. We are really trying to reach out to folks and give you a choice. And why should you vote for me? I would say there's 3 reasons. Number 1, you trust my judgment based on my education and experience. You share my values. And number 3, you like my ideas. And so again, look at my website, what I'd like to do for you. It really all revolves around making Maine work better for all of us. So thanks again. Again, I'm Fred Horch. Would love your vote. And again, thanks for this opportunity this morning.
Thank you, Fred. Mike, you have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
I won't need but just about maybe 15 seconds. Cory, I want to thank you for all the work that you've done to put this together and make it happen. I'd like to thank the members of the Chamber who behind the scenes have been working on this, and also the sponsors. This has been a great idea, and I think when you get the finished product up on the web, it'll be helpful for people to understand the candidates.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for that. And Mike, if people want to find out more about you or want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Telephone.
Okay.
729-5455.
729-5455. That's great. So I'm going to wrap up kind of the official version. I know we said 9:30, so I want to be respectful of that. So if anybody wants to drop off, but while we have Ralph here, and Ralph, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'd love to go over the questions that everyone else answered. And this is going to just be more of a 4 or 5 questions consecutively to you, just so people can hear your thoughts. And those that want to stay on and listen to Ralph, we're not going to go around in the circle anymore because we've already heard kind of from everybody. You're welcome to stay on, or you're welcome to depart. And thank you all for joining us, for those that do need to get running. So Ralph, if that's okay with you, I would love to just add that on now so people can get your thoughts too.
I will try to be brief.
Awesome. Thank you, Ralph. All right. So the first question was on property tax. And it was a long question. And this is one of our submitted questions. But essentially, it was talking about property tax. So of the three primary tax buckets, income tax, sales tax, and property tax is the most progressive and strikes the hardest of those that can least afford it, according to the person submitted this question.
Least progressive.
He said most regressive is what they said.
Regressive. Well,
Yeah, sorry.
progressive.
No. Please comment as to how you, serving in the state legislature, might assist in alleviating this tax burden on the local communities. Some examples of solutions might be developing alternative funding sources, lifting state requirements, more direct assistance, etc. So just 2 minutes on property tax and how you might alleviate that.
Well, as the questioner said, there's a three-legged stool that we have in Maine. We got, and I'm not sure they're exactly equivalent, but it's the property tax, the sales tax, and the income tax. And it's my belief that the income tax should be leaned on more than the property tax, because the property tax is collected at the local level. So I would rather see us lean more towards the income tax, which is collected by the state, and then have that shared with the localities with revenue sharing. We also could perhaps give a boost on property tax relief, credits and so forth, to help the local property taxpayer.
Wonderful. All right. That is question one. Question number two, we were talking about career and technical education and the proposal for the four-year technical high school. So the question is, Region 10 Technical High School is our region's career and technical high school. Students attend part-time, typically in their junior and senior year of high school. What are your thoughts on Region 10's vision to become a four-year technical high school located at Brunswick Landing to support our businesses and industry's critical need for skilled workers? And again, 2 minutes.
I certainly agree with that. In my first term, I went down and had a meeting with the principal of, or I don't know if the superintendent or the principal of the Oak Tech school. And I was quite inspired by the motivation, by the energy that they're putting into this project. Obviously, it's taking years to move along. I forgot the name of the lady who was pushing it.
It's actually Nancy Weed, and she's on the call. So hello, Nancy.
Nancy is very impressive, and I would support whatever Nancy is pushing. I think the four-year idea is good. That way you don't have to take a kid out of one school and have them running back and forth from one school to another. And I think it's a great idea.
Awesome. Thank you, Ralph. And again, apologies for our mix-up, in not getting you here. And I appreciate you letting me kind of rapid fire these questions at you. So The third question was submitted, has to do with opioid addiction and gateway drugs. So I'm going to read the question. It's a little lengthy, but and again, the commentary is from the person that submitted the question. We've all watched the devastation to our community from the opioid epidemic, so we can all agree that we need to prevent addiction and the terrible toll it takes on our kids and our economy. The evidence is very clear that tobacco products, whether smoked or vaped, are often the first addictive product our youth are exposed to, and that nicotine exposure impacts the developing brain and creates susceptibility to other addictions as life unfolds. So we know that one of the best things we can do is make tobacco products less appealing to our kids. And that starts with getting grape and cherry and bubblegum flavors, all flavors off the store shelves. Flavors aren't for adults, flavors hook kids. My question is, what's your plan for preventing addiction? And would you support ending the sale of all flavored tobacco products in Maine?
The answer is yes. I've been impressed with the studies that have been done regarding addiction, at least along the drug level, not specifically tobacco. Jay McCrae is a colleague, a representative from Harpswell, and she was a leading legislator on the opiate study team. I don't know much about the tobacco issues because I've spent most of my time in the environmental committee. You understand that most of the work in our legislature is done at the committee level rather than on the floor. But I am firmly committed to reducing smoking for everybody, and especially among kids. So I would go along with banning the flavored stuff. It's pretty clear to me that that's a marketing strategy specifically aimed at young people, whether or not you admit it or not.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Ralph. Our fourth question and the fifth question is the one that you entered on. And so, this is kind of the last new question for you here. And it has to do with working across the aisle, finding compromise. And so the Maine State Legislature is going to be facing a lot of challenges in this upcoming session. Can you give examples from your past when you needed to compromise and work towards a common goal with those who did not share your views initially?
I would point basically to the work done in the Environment and Natural Resources Committee, where I developed a very cordial and productive working relationship with all members of the committee. You could contact any of the Republicans on that committee, and they would give you a frank assessment on whether or not I'm easy to work with, whether I'm cordial and civil. I would point out that I have some statistics here, but I don't want to bore you too much. But of all the bills that were introduced and sent to the Environment Committee, 70 to 80% of the bills were reported out of the committee unanimously. Now that includes bills that we killed, as well as bills that we passed. But I went back and I counted the number of bills that we got, okay? For example, in 2019, we had 90 bills. And only 15 did we have a split vote.
Wow.
So that would be 83%, I think, were unanimous. And so there's a lot of work that's done in the legislature that's below the radar, that nobody covers in the newspaper. It's still valuable work. Sometimes it's a valuable work, even if you kill a bill. I mean, if a bill is not ready to go and it's hotly contested, a lot of times it's just better to kill the bill, work on it some more, and maybe come back the next session and pass it. So I think I would point to my experience as chair of the Environment Committee as the most objective criteria that would show my ability to work across the aisle.
That's great. That's great, Ralph. Thank you for that answer. And so the last question was the question that you entered on, and you've already kind of answered. So I'm just going to kind of tie this into the question was, are there, one or two, two or three priorities that we haven't discussed that you think are important issues to you? And you kind of mentioned answer that, and that kind of fits with a closing statement where everyone just kind of gave their closing statement. So yeah, just take 2 minutes here and share anything else that you want, and or give your closing statement.
I'd be glad to. For people who are just coming on or who I didn't have a chance to talk to, my name is Ralph Tucker. I'm a retired Maine District Court judge. I've been the representative from Brunswick since 2014. Or it's 2014? 6 years anyway.
Yeah.
And the reason I ran for House of Representatives here in Maine is because I believe in the common good. I've spent my career in the legal field, mostly representing injured workers and labor unions. I worked heading up the Maine Workers' Compensation Commission during the workers' compensation wars that you're all aware of back in the 90s and 80s. And I've spent most of my time in the legislature in the Environment Committee, so that's where I really understand the issues best. But in regard to the general issues like education and healthcare, I'm basically lined up with my Democratic colleagues to increase the opportunities for health insurance and healthcare, and to encourage adequate funding for public education. The specific things that I plan to be working on next time are the PFAS cleanup bills, which I mentioned earlier, hydrofluorocarbon regulation, and lastly, trying to cut down on the amount of packaging waste. Right now, the town, for example, the town of Brunswick, we're closing down our landfill. And one of the problems that we're having is that there's such a huge volume of packaging nowadays that the town is saddled with this cost of what to do with it. It's just an artifact of history. The towns are saddled with how to get rid of waste. Now, why should the town be the one that has to pay for that through the property tax? You know what I mean? And so there's a novel idea that we're looking at that's going on in the Canadian provinces. We can bring it here, I think. The idea that the major brand packagers will have to form a consortium, and they will end up having to pay for the recycling and disposal of all this excess packaging and take the financial burden off the property taxpayer. And I think it's a novel idea. It's a great idea. And we're going to be working on that. We almost passed it this session. We took a final vote on it in May, but then the legislature adjourned. So we'll start up with that all over again. And that's the other thing that ties Brunswick with state environmental policy.
Great.
That's basically it. I want to thank you, Cory, for putting on this program. Even if we did get the AM, PM mixed up. And I hope that your viewers enjoy the program.
Well, thank you, Ralph. And I will, when I do post that, I will note that so people know that your stuff is at the end too, so that they'll see your answers as well.
Okay.
But thank you so much. Last question, Ralph, is if people want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that, to get more information?
Yes. Well, my telephone number, I have a recorder there. Yep. To catch the crank calls. It's 725-7639.
Beautiful. And that is it. I do want to thank the few that stayed with us. And if you did watch through the end, the last thing I will say is if you want more information on these candidates, we did a series of one-on-one interviews with each of them. They're 15 to 20 minutes, and it gets into some of the things we talked about here, but some other things about their background. We have 4 incredible candidates, and it's a shame that there's only 2 seats for the 4 of you, because I think you all bring something unique and wonderful. So thank you for being patient with me. It's a difficult thing to pull together, and I appreciate your time and your graciousness and being a part of it. So thank you all so very much, and good luck with the campaign.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Cory.
Thanks, Cory.